Hello, everybody. We're live and on time with no. I'm gonna try and jinx it. No apparent technical issues at the minute. Shin isn't chewing. He's not clicking his pen. He's behaving himself for the time being. Lockhart's
You got a
turned
new internet
up.
provider? Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, you know what? You was right to have that dig at me then. The new internet provider's holding out. Actually, I didn't just get Lorne's boys on the job. It seems to be doing a decent job. Oh shit! Brilliant. Right. Everybody in the chat, apart from that embarrassing echo, then just let me know if you can hear us all good and whatnot. So, yeah. Thanks for joining us, everybody, by the way. Yeah, it's been a while. And everybody's here. Amanda James, Lockhart, and Shin. So, hello, everybody. And thanks for coming in, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
And yeah, Amanda James and Lockhart have been kind enough to put aside the side projects and join the guys on this occasion. So thank you for taking the time to do this. Do you want to just do a little plug for your channel, and you can put a comment in the chat, maybe?
Yeah. So I will post the channel in the chat. It's Amanda James and I, a couple of misdemeanors. And right now we're talking about Lorne. We're going over his RSO assignments. Very interesting, and it's a lot of fun to do. But aside from that, we are talking about other cases too. So we will be talking about Jodi Arias. That'll be the trial coming up. We just went through her interrogation, and then we're going to go through her trial. So hopefully you guys will join us.
I still think you should change your name.
To what?
Sexy little things in the pool. I really do. I actually think.
Even the dog agrees.
Yes.
No, she said no.
Oh.
That's right. She
Do
said
that.
no.
Now, just so y'all know, in the chat, Shin actually called them that before we started recording on multiple occasions. In fact, I'm starting to think that Lorne picked that up from him. He says it that often, if I'm being honest. Wouldn't that be an amazing Black Mirror style twist?
He would be the worst student in the world, bro. Oh.
Yeah, but what kind of things? Like, what would be the topic of what would be the topic to teach him? Like predatory behavior, just basic dating. It's best not to go there, to be honest.
Stalking waitresses.
You teach him what grooming means. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you listen to me and Tiffany's latest video, we learned that Lorne has no idea what grooming means. He thinks he grooms his boss and his mom.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wow.
He thinks it's just being nice and doing things, but yeah, he doesn't get it.
The stuff that you guys went over with his assignments, it actually became more poignant when you guys were doing it for the first time for me, although it was weird to begin with. But the idea that he thinks that his answers should stand the way they are for 11 years and thinks he's going to get out of sex offender class. I mean, he doesn't. I finished the book. Well, you got all the answers wrong, just so you know. You don't want to keep writing the wrong answers.
Yeah, exactly.
But you guys, it's well worth the listen, guys. Those guys are great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So you put the channel in the chat, haven't you? So if people want to, if people want to sub, check it out.
Yeah.
So I came up with an idea of going over Lorne's relationships. Now, this is just going to be, we're going to talk about what we know about his previous relationships, whether we think they're true or not. Because obviously, the problem that we have with his pre-NBC life is the only source of intelligence that we have, I believe, is his word. Like, we may have some secondary evidence, I think. I think there's something that's going on in my brain that says someone said something. But anyway, we can get onto that. So the idea of this series, if you will, is going to be, we're going to start with Kaylin after this prequel, if you will. And we're going to go over each of his sort of relationships and talk about the dynamics of them, what he got out of it or what he didn't. Was there like a favorite? I was going to say, was the like a deepest love that he had? But it's kind of a stupid question, really, because he just automatically by default loves any kind of female that pays him any kind of romantic attention. So it doesn't really make any sense, because like if you ask somebody who's been married about 3 times or something and you said like, who was your truest love, they'd probably give you an answer, and there'd probably be a real defining sort of almost philosophical answer as to what it was. But with him, it's fucking stupid. It makes no sense. It's all fake. So of course it doesn't really have that effect, but it's fun to explore. And I think with this, the kind of pre-NBC days, we can kind of talk about if there's any signs as to what led him to that bizarre chat log. Now, if you think about predators and like Lorne and all the people on To Catch a Predator and people that pursue children, which is, you know, obviously what a predator is in these terms, they're all fucking odd people. You know, they've all got... It goes without saying. You don't need me to say it. But Lorne was a bit different in the way that the chat log went, the way that he communicated with Kayla. You get where I'm coming from. So it's like, were there any... I think, is that why we're so fascinated with his past? Because I was thinking about this earlier when I was kind of scheduling it. Why do we give so much of a shit? Why is there endless debates about... You know, we hear one little tale, so we're listening to the catfish, you know, like the robot stuff, and we're like, oh my God, who's this woman that he was out with? You know, we're so intrigued. Like, why do we care so much?
I think it's because it's so strange. And it's difficult to wrap your head around the stories, and they don't make a lot of sense. And just from hearing a lot of his behavior over the years, not only just from the chat log, but everything that we learned after it makes it so much more interesting. And you really get a composite of who Lorne is, the things that he's done in his past, the way that he relates to other people. I think it's all really interesting.
Yeah, and Dan Jones has just made a good point. He says it's because he's still living the same life as he did with his first known catfish, Amanda James, which I think, I think that's part of it, is that, and it's the fundamental core, really, of the Lorne saga is his inability to change, really. You know, the lack of learning, that's what made him what he is, if you will. You know, the ridiculous lawsuits and the denial of what happened. It all sort of goes hand in hand. It's part of his innate character. Yeah.
I think what also makes it interesting too is that we don't know any of these people, so we don't know the true nature of the relationships that he had or what their communication was like. Do they hang out together? And obviously we know that it all goes badly. It ends up in the end that Lorne either has a complaint filed against him for sending several text messages or, you know, he gets ghosted, you know, whatever the case may be. But I think it's interesting. It's just like how you always talk about how it was really interesting at the start of Lornography, if you will, when there was no contact with anybody and you just had the sting footage, you had the phone calls with Kayla, and you had the chat log. And then after that, Betty came along and we were able to include that story and who Lorne is. But it is interesting to think about what we know about Lorne and how we can take the way that he is with people and place that into other relationships, assuming that they're probably going to be the same, at least with what his behaviors are like.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I kind of have to, I agree with Richard Johnson. You know, he says his delusions, he indulges in his delusions instead of facing reality, that kind of thing. But that's what I find fascinating and funny. The idea of who he's trying to project himself to be and the juxtaposition of the reality of the situation. I mean, that's always a funny formula in my view. And especially when he's so egotistical and narcissistic about who he thinks he is. And then in real life, you find out he's lived a life in total emotional and physical isolation from people. So it's just strange to see how he he characterizes his own being, you know, and you know, everything is spinned in a way that makes it seem like he's either a hero or he's extremely desirable or like that. And then when you find out the reality of the whole thing, I think it's funny. I mean, you know, it's kind of like letting a criminal defendant keep digging himself in the hole with a stupid story that's easily disproven, and you just let him keep going on, you know, and then hitting him with it. But in this instance, hitting him with it is funny.
Yeah, definitely. I think that some of them tales that he tells, I think the most funny one is the what was the Christmas tree one when he just digs himself into these ridiculous holes.
I know.
And it's just hilarious. But what
That's a great
you were
story.
what you were saying, Shin, about what Richard Johnson said in the chat, his choice to indulge in his delusions rather than facing reality. Well, they are reality to Lorne. You know, it's like.
Well, I think it's survival. I don't think it's necessarily.
Well, that's what I mean, and it's like when we kind of theorized that he had narcissistic personality disorder. If that's the case, which we can't rule out, that means that he genuinely believes. It's like it's an interesting part of the human condition how we can choose to live a false reality, but deep down we kind of know. What I'm kind of interested in, how does Lorne know deep down, or does he? Because we have to sort of say that his level of delusion is way out there. The NBC stuff was way out there.
That's a great question.
That's what keeps me interested because also this is why a part of me has always not, you know, questioned the catfishing, because if it's true that he is, that he can't really see, he has an inability to see the truth, you know, does he kind of deserve all the shit he's getting? And that's a question for another time. I don't.
Are you asking? Does he know he's lying? Is that what it boils down to?
Yeah, in a way, I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, it goes deeper than that. It's every aspect of his life, and it goes with what he said in one of the calls, and I can't remember. I think it was one of the Casey calls, and I don't want to go deeply into this because this is a stream. This is a topic for a stream by itself. Is how he said he's got a positive attitude towards his life, which is fucking unbelievable. I almost envy him in a way.
Me too. I wish I
get upset over the stupidest things, and he's like, "I've had a good life." I'm like, "Fucking hell, really? Wow, that's fucking amazing." But that's a conversation for another time. I find all this
real
quite
quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think it's because he doesn't know better.
Well, that's what I mean. Potentially, that's why we'll discuss it in more detail. It's beyond what we're doing here. What's your take on it, Amanda James, very quickly, before we get into what we think is his first kind of dabble, shall we say? There's not really much to say. We're just interested in him as a character, aren't we? So, of course, his backstory is going to be equally fascinating, isn't it?
Don't hold back, Amanda.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said it's interesting because Lorne hasn't changed. And since the beginning, that's what I find the most interesting, I think, is the total lack of growth through the whole thing. We can look at his relationship with Kayla and find a million similarities with his relationship with the newest Casey and all the catfish in between. And I think we can safely assume that the women before Kayla, or women and girls before Kayla, dealt with the same kind of thing. It's all just rinse and repeat. I think starting with Amanda James up until our latest catfish, Lorne has been the same person, the same delusional person, the same controlling, jealous, insecure person. He didn't learn from Amanda James and Vanessa Anley Parker and the fact that there was always a reason they couldn't come up to see him. It's the same thing repeated over and over again. And even a child, even a dog or like a monkey or a fucking rat or something would put those patterns together after a while, and they would learn and they would adapt and change. But Lorne doesn't. He stays the same over the past 15 years.
That's great, Amanda James. Like, I just
awesome.
thought you was being quite, not respectful, but not going after Lorne like you usually do. And then you just basically said he's stupider than a rat, which is fucking hilarious.
Stupid, yeah.
It wasn't very satisfying, Amanda, but you were right. Yeah, okay.
He's
Unless
interesting
you
because
shit
he's
all over
stupid.
him.
Is Lorne dumber than a rat? That's a great title for a stream.
I would argue, yes, absolutely. And I just laid out my case for why.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't
brilliant.
even need a stream.
Bye.
It's all right
We've
there.
got a
Bye.
unanimous decision here, guys. Oh, brilliant. Kind of reminds me, I'm going to have to revert back to The Simpsons where there's that one where Lisa does the test on Bart to see if he's dumber than a hamster, and it turns out he actually is. We could probably do. I've just got a picture of Lorne's head on a cartoon hamster in my head.
Oh, Andrew, something I always wanted to ask you real quick. Did you associate Rod and Todd with the Simpsons episode at all?
What do you mean?
Did you understand that those two characters, Rod and Todd, are based on the Simpsons
Oh yeah,
episode?
of course. I mean,
I didn't know. Okay.
all the videos that you've always got a picture of Rod and in you know, it just makes it funnier that the two kind of known characters and he hasn't kind of. It doesn't help him to understand that it's nonsense. It just makes it kind of funnier, really. It's so silly.
That little boy is now rich enough to make his own porn. That's weird. It's funny though, but it's weird.
Oh dear. Right. Okay. Let's get down to it. So I'm kind of going into this completely blind here, but we've got some resident experts, and I'm kind of looking at you, Amanda James, for a bit of support for this. Don't take this like the wrong way, but I see you as the fountain of knowledge when it comes to Lorne. I don't know. You just seem to soak up all the information. It's great. So, if we go back to what we know about his earlier days, does anybody know what his earliest known fumble is?
Can I preface this by saying this right away? Whatever the answers are after this, I think that this is kind of the backdrop. He was much worse when he was younger than he is now. He had to have
In
been.
what way? What do you mean worse?
Oh, the misogyny, the abuse,
why do you say that?
Obsessive nature, all of his traits that he has now were highlighted back then. And if you think about it, how stupid did we think we were when we were young, right? We did a lot of stupid things. Can you imagine how stupid he was when he was young? So everybody who said, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
That's the entire thing. Most people start out being stupid when they're young. And as you grow older, you gain wisdom, you learn from your mistakes, and you change. I think Lorne is exactly the same as he was when he was young. Right. He hasn't grown out of it at all.
He could have got worse,
a little bit, though. He learned a little bit, I think. But can you imagine how he was when he was 19, 20?
I don't think there was any difference.
I think it was worse.
No, I'm not sure, because I think with some people, they get, like, what you're saying makes sense with regard to dating and just life. As you get older, you get wiser. I think back to myself in my younger days when I was trying to get it on with women when I was a teenager, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe how fucking stupid I was. And
right.
I just wish I had some of this knowledge back then, but I suppose everybody thinks like that. But with people like Lorne, they can actually get dumber as they get older, because because of the mistakes that they make, and they don't learn in the right ways. It makes them madder and angrier and more bitter and twisted and more sexually perverse, and they end up becoming what was at the chat log. And I'm sure that if Kayla presented herself in some form when he was 19, that chat log would have been different.
Yeah.
Because you got all them years of rage and frustration at that point.
The question is, I'm just curious, does everyone think that he got better as he got older, or he got worse as he got older? I'm curious about that. Like you said, we all learn from our own mistakes, and we try to correct our actions. We look back and kind of shame sometimes about the stuff we did. I think for some reason, again, we're talking about the virgin years. But these are the prime years to determine whether he was a virgin or not. He was half decent. He had his hair at that point. He had, he had really good class pictures taken of. You could see him right there, but you also saw him being abused in high school by his peers and by his classmates and everything else. We know about that. But I'm just wondering, he had the physical part on his side. He had to have been worse if he didn't get laid at that point. He had to have been. And now he's, for lack of a better term, from one of the greatest pornographers who's ever lived, he's an ogre. So
it's a good description. That it really sums him up perfectly.
I'm trying to get you guys to call him an ogre, but that's okay.
We refuse to do that, Shen. We refuse.
But what do you think? Do you think he was worse when he was younger or worse when he was older?
I'm going to say worse when he was older.
Is that possible?
Yeah, I think because he has gained experience. The passage of time has given him experience. And I think that he's become even more perverted. And
of course, I agree.
Yeah. So I think that over time, that frustration as well is going to build. His insecurities are going to build. So I think when he was younger, he probably felt perhaps more sad for himself, that he had difficulty socially, didn't have a lot going on when he was in school. He was dropped by his friends when he wouldn't participate as a star in the basketball team. And then from then on, it did. Like the butterfly effect, who knows where we'd all be, right? But I think that over time it built more into
worse?
He really honed in. Yeah, I think worse. I think because he's gained skills in grooming, and he's really started to perfect, even though stupidly, and we can see them as obvious ways of trying to manipulate and things like that. But he's gained that experience. So think about how it was for him as a predator on the internet. And often when we look at predatory behavior, it doesn't start where it ends. There's typically going to be a process where it moves forward. So perhaps something started when he was with his niece, and he tells the story of how she was on the internet and somebody was speaking to her the way that he was speaking with other girls and with Kayla. And he became very upset. And perhaps that could have sparked something in him, so that he then was going on the internet and seeing who was out there and talking to girls who were younger. But certainly it's going to progress over time. He didn't start off, I think, immediately thinking of all of the ways to avoid detection. He would have gained all of that through gradual experience.
Okay. So he had some ability to learn at that point.
Sure. And I think that will also escalate his behavior and his perversion, and, seeing that he can have access to his ideal, the ideal subject of those perversions, which would be on the internet. And he could do it quite easily, and he could do it seemingly in his mind without detection. And think about how, for example, when it comes to Kayla deleting her archives, that was something that he figured out. Okay, you can delete them here, and then we can go to MySpace, because it's not the same. It's not the same type of archiving.
Well, even more innocuous about his ability to put together these fucking stupid emojis. And what were they back then?
That's a good point, that dude. It's like, that was, I've still not been able to get my head around all that stuff. That would suggest that he was quite seasoned at it, wouldn't it?
He's adept. Yes, he's adept. Yeah. Every time we do these things, I'm getting closer and closer. Well, I am there at this point. I believe he's a preferential predator at this point. I believe that's the he figured out, like, if he was able to learn, like you say, Tiffany, he figured out he's turning off older women, and that children were easier. That's what he learned. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about a timeline here. I mean, this might even spill into episode 2, this. But I suppose we've got to mention Molly as well, unfortunately. I don't like talking about her, really, even though, I mean, only because it seems...
It's important, though. It's important.
No, it is. It's just because we're bringing somebody real into the fray who's like a victim. It kind of seems... I know people might be sighing, going, oh, he's going off again. But I think some people understand it, because it's a bit like Kayla and the catfishes. They're not real. You know, we got a real girl who was affected. Fuck knows where. You know, and a vulnerable girl as well. But I don't think we're doing anything. You know, only got a first name.
No, but here's another question about the Molly situation. You know how he is with all the catfish, going all the way back to Kayla, and how can you not assume that he was the exact same way with her?
I don't think anyone does.
Oh no, I don't think so either. I think that's
exactly, and he's made a point to, to differentiate her from, say, Kayla. He's done that many times. You know, we were just friends. You know, she was vulnerable. You know, she had a boyfriend. I told her she was pretty. You know, whatever he did, it was the same fucking thing. And I guarantee, the only thing that may have been held back a little bit is his desire to keep showing his dick on camera. I think he wanted to do that a lot more than he did. Kayla was just a godsend when she came. She didn't give a shit.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think that Molly was a training exercise for Kayla. And the highly amusing thing about that is Lorne was training himself, and he had an apprentice to send him to jail for 5 years, which is fucking fantastic.
Tiffany asked a question to him during that interview. She said, was there ever a time when someone just like freaked out and said it freaked you out, that somebody took what you were saying in a way that was kind of threatening for you, or that was scary for you? And he said he didn't. You know, he's never been in that. He actually acted confused. I believe he doesn't know the difference. I believe that's what happened. But I believe that happened all the time. I believe he was contacting many people like Molly. We know he's not true to one catfish, right? Or one, somebody online that he's talking to. He's going to be spreading his stuff out all over the place, and he's going to be rejected all the fucking time. All the time. I would say 95% of the time. And then 5%
and I think
what he hung on to.
That's why he was so overexcited in the Kayla situation with the chat log. That's why it screams out so much. And we say that like that was the happiest Lorne's ever been, because he got so much of what he wanted. That's what's so funny about this whole thing, is it's so remarkable that this guy ended up like just talking himself into 5 years in prison. And the irony is he was the happiest he'd been at that time. And we can Tiffany, convince ourselves we're happy when we're not really, because we're living in a, we've constructed a false reality, and it basically means the truth will always catch up with you.
Well, the reality is based on whatever he says, and he's a liar 95% of the time. So we don't really know. We have to create our own inferences and things like that.
He doesn't understand his own truth, Lorne. That's where it comes from, when he's not a reliable reporter, like what the report said. He can't, you see, you ask him these questions and he can't answer them properly because he's not very good at communicating.
Right.
And he doesn't understand his own emotions. He doesn't even understand his own behavior. So when he's an unreliable reporter, it's like, fucking yeah, he's a massively unreliable reporter for many reasons.
It's terrible. You're not going to get facts out of him.
But there's little glimpses of the truth that come to the surface, and that's what makes this kind of fun.
Right, exactly. But Tiffany and Amanda, what do you think of Outdoor Loser's comment right there?
So poor Molly, she definitely got rage screamed at by Lorne for ignoring him and / cheating. Is that the one?
Yeah. What do you think?
Sure,
definitely.
Yeah. I think also she got the crying Lorne, the crying drunk Lorne, who I feel like shit. and he just wants to cry and talk about how all he wants to do is put his head in her lap and be comforted
With his bald
and
head,
all of
yes.
that. Sure, yeah, even at that point, yes.
There's no way
yeah.
that he didn't treat Molly the same way he treated Kayla. But I think there were certain guardrails, though. You know,
Yeah.
she wasn't willing to stay no matter what. So there's that. But I believe he had jealous rages with her. You know, remember that story he was telling where she flashed somebody else instead of him, and he like wrote it off as that's not a big deal, bullshit.
I'm sure she got the same. What boys did you sit next to in school today? Did you see your boyfriend at school today? And she got the same grooming. When you love someone, you pay attention to them all the time.
Wouldn't it be funny if she had a friend called Derek? If there was there was like a real Derek, how funny! Like, there's a good chance that happened. That'd be. I mean, we'll never know, but we can imagine in our brain that Derek has haunted the Lorne forever.
Yeah, and I don't think that Lorne treated it as brushing it off, like was just said. I think that he definitely pointed it out to her. He said that you didn't do that for me, you did that for somebody else, didn't you? And she said, yeah, you know, I didn't realize it or something. And he made it a point to tell her because he didn't want her to think that she could put something past him, which is ridiculous. But that's what he said, and I believe that too.
One up a child. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Dan asked a good question. Do you think he required Molly to watch him while his cam was on while he wasn't there too, like Kayla? I think there's certain liberties that he was able to take with Kayla he wasn't able to take with Molly. That's for sure.
Sure. Yes.
You know, because for the simple fact that Molly was a real person. You know, Kayla was going to take.
Well,
Kayla
that's a huge difference. That
it is,
isn't it? Fake person, real person. There's going to be a lot of differences in that relationship, but
yeah, the fake person will go along with everything that Lorne wants to do.
I wish I had a fake.
Did you guys
person.
notice he did the same thing with both girls? He did the whole I'm going to give you relationship advice. He talked about how when he first started talking to Molly, she was really depressed because her boyfriend was an idiot. So he's there talking to this 15-year-old girl about her boyfriend and, correcting the boy's behavior, I assume. Just like he did with Kayla, he asked her about her boyfriend and she explained how her and DJ had broken up. And he's giving advice. Well, it sounds like you did the right thing, sweetheart. And the context of it was,
right? Yeah.
With both, he did it with. He talked about how with Molly, he helped her through some stuff with her boyfriend because her boyfriend was a jackass or whatever he said. And then he kind of did the same thing with Kayla. And the context of it was, Kayla said that her and her 13-year-old boyfriend broke up because a friend told her that he liked one of their friends, or something very juvenile and immature, and something that, would only happen in 6th grade when you're 13. Oh, so-and-so said DJ likes Becky, so I'm going to break up with him. But I don't know if that was the right thing to do. And Lorne, in all his wisdom, said, well, it sounds like you did the right thing. I mean, it's crazy to think of a 36-year-old
He didn't phrase it that way. He said, sounds like you did the right thing,
Yeah. What adult is going to waste their time talking about something like that anyway with a 13-year-old? But I think a mature response would probably be, well, did you talk to him about it? But Lorne was just happy that he was out of the picture. Like, oh, you did the right thing. Get rid of that 13-year-old boy. Make way for this 36-year-old man, Kayla. Here I come.
Yeah.
Lorne hates men and little boys. He fucking hates them.
Just all other men, basically.
Yeah.
So, was Paula the first alleged girlfriend of Lorne that we're aware of?
No.
Oh.
Denise.
Who said that?
Denise.
Who said that?
Denise was the first. And actually, I was reminded by that 87 Problems put it in the chat earlier, brought up Denise. And I was like, oh, yeah, she was the first one. That is who Lorne said took his virginity.
Hang on a minute. There's something
Oh,
very
when he
strange.
was
Denise
19.
or his
Yeah.
nieces. Denise.
No,
It seems very odd for this
no,
fucking Denise
Andrew.
person.
No, we're not
It's
going
like a
down that
man
road,
named
Jesus.
James. I mean, come on, that's fun to talk about, but it's not right. It's not true.
Right. Yeah. So Denise was someone who he met when he was 19. And so that would have been before he moved out to
Was she the 29-year-old?
Arizona. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Ugh.
So Lorne
Yeah.
said, and I mean, the story is obviously convoluted, right? We're not going to
No, you don't say.
the greatest of details. But I don't know how he met this person. Do you know, AJ, what he said ever about meeting this person?
I don't remember how he said he met her. He probably did mention it, but I forgot about Denise up until she was just mentioned now.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't talk about her that much
No.
for someone who took his virginity, and he considers her a real girlfriend. He said
Yes.
they only dated for a couple months, I think.
Yes.
But he said they spent a lot of time together, like every night. So you would think he would talk about her more.
Yeah, but how does that square with what Tiffany got him to admit that he's never had a girlfriend?
Well, it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't. Right.
But according to this, she had a couple of kids, younger kids, and I know he mentioned about him spending the night, and then the kids would like go off to school or something like that, and then he would go to work. I don't think she worked. And
Well, can you hold on a sec? Because the chat's asking. I think they're a little confused, or I'm confused. One of the two. Let's figure this out. Is this the girl, this 29-year-old woman, rather, the same person who Lorne was working for her father, and her father wanted her to marry him?
No.
What fucking stupid story
I
is
don't
that,
think
by
so.
the way?
No, that was
fucking
earlier.
stupid story.
That would have been
It's not the same
earlier.
person, though. Okay.
No, it's not the same person. That
So
person.
who was that?
I want to say, wasn't her name Amanda?
Brandy?
Jesus, you
Brandy.
can't even recycle names right. Okay.
I know.
Brandy was the Valentine's date one. And strangely enough, I was listening to that robot call only today.
That's a great one. That's a great story.
You had sex, right? Yep.
He does recycle names though. So Brandy could have been the girl whose dad he worked for, and then he's put on the spot with Jamie to talk about his last Valentine's Day date, and he's like, "Oh, Brandy." Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's
Can
what
we
happened,
flesh that
but I
out for a
wouldn't be
second?
surprised.
Yeah, you're right. I think he said it was Brandy too. But can we flesh that out? What kind of job did he have that the owner of the company would look at him saying, "That's a good suitor for my..." I'm just curious. What the fuck could he have done to impress the owner?
Well, I think we
this
can
place?
say
Wasn't
that
it-
didn't happen.
Wasn't it a milk company though?
That was one of the first jobs he got when he left, when he got out of prison.
Yeah, we're not talking about Clark's Milk, are we?
No, but I think I want to say that he was working for a milk company, and the boss that he was dating, quote unquote dating, the boss's
girl.
daughter, the boss's daughter, and the boss wanted Lorne to marry his daughter, and
Who the fuck does that?
was like, "Listen, I'm not going to be tied down," and he bailed.
This story's got all the hallmarks of a truthful account.
I know. I'm really curious how old he would have been at that point, if then at 19 he was with
19,
Denise.
right? Okay.
No, because Denise was when he was 19. I don't know when that happened. Perhaps it was like right before then. Maybe he was 18 when that happened.
This follows his narrative about every alleged relationship he's ever had, or sexual experience he's ever had, and that is there's two things. Number one, the woman was all over him, and apparently in this case he was getting social pressure from his own boss to be with somebody. But it's like he's like I don't know, some extremely handsome guy with a lot to live. I mean, a lot going for him in life, and he wasn't. He would just be a normal drone worker for this guy, I assume. I didn't even know what he did for a job. And the second is he's fucked over some guy somehow. Those are, and I believe that second part is probably his biggest motivation in the world. And I've said this many times in some comments that I believe Lorne is not so much interested in, bedding down some woman or whatever, or having a relationship with some woman. He's more interested in showing up other guys and to let them see what they can't have. That's his big motivation in life, I believe.
No, I'm
And
not
there's some-
sure. I don't think so.
I believe there's some homoerotic, implications to that too.
No, you just can't get that big dildo shot out of your head. I mean, it is rather disturbing, I must admit.
It was taller than him, that dildo.
Yeah, what was it called? Lemondre?
Yeah.
It's funny. Right.
Yeah,
so
I
hang on.
think
Denise.
we had. Yes, so Denise had a couple of kids, and she lived in a trailer park. And then I believe, well, of course, there was some kind of a psychotic ex around. Now, I could be getting this mixed up with something else that I had
Where
heard.
did we get? Sorry to interrupt you. Where did we get this information from specifically? I know it's from him, but when did he say it, and to who?
He said it a couple of different times. I mean,
Blue Boy
yeah,
is
he's
in the
alluded
chat,
to
so he
it.
might be able to help us. I don't know whether it was in one of the Casey calls. I don't remember this
I
specifically,
think
but I've
it
only
was
listened to them
before
once.
Casey.
he's
said
mentioned it before.
he said the ex tried to kill them.
Yes, by turning on the gas.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that
Yeah.
story. Can somebody go over
What
that
the
for me?
fuck? What the? Ugh.
Yeah, the gas
The-
stove.
Nothing
Right,
simple
that
in Lorne's world, is it?
Yeah.
But he overcame that. He turned into John Wick and killed a guy, right? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Sort of in his head. He told him to basically go fuck himself quietly. Under his
That
breath.
showed him.
Actually,
And immediately,
he
it was
made
like one
his
of them
car
comic
cave
moments.
in.
Pow! Pazam!
Right.
You! You! Go fuck yourself! Pazam! He's dead. Right, that's the end of him.
That's it. Yeah, so that and that basically ended, I think, at that point, as far as I know.
I hate to say this, but I think if there's any situation where, well, actually there are two. A situation where Lorne could have had sex, that would have been one of them.
Did he say he
And
had
the
sex
second-
with Denise? And just to clarify,
Yes.
not the niece.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Denise.
Did he-
Every day. He
What?
said
Yeah.
they had
Right.
daily
Well, that's a
sex for, like,
girlfriend.
2
That's a
months.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
He said that was his first girlfriend.
Yeah.
But he
The
never
beauty
had a
of these
girlfriend.
stories is we'll never fucking have a clue whether any of this was even remotely true. I'm going to ask each one of you the same question that we have to go over that stirs up so much debate. While we're on this subject, we can't avoid it. Right, Shin, virgin, yes or no? One word
I
answer.
hate to-
One word answer. Don't fuck me about.
I gotta say yes because I haven't seen evidence. Sorry.
Yes, that's okay. Right, Amanda James.
Oh, it's hard. I want to say no, but then I would have to kind of pin it down to which one he actually had sex with. I think he could have had sex with Denise. I think he could have found some really weird 29-year-old woman who was willing to have sex with a 19-year-old kid. There are weird people out there,
Oh,
weird
yes.
women.
Yeah.
And
Not just
so
a kid, a cockfuck.
a cockfuck, right? I think he could have, and then he kind of turned it into something more. Maybe she was just like he was just kind of a, she had just broken up with her kid's dad or something, and then there's this weird guy who's always there when she calls him, so she calls him up at night and says, hey, want to come on over? They do whatever, and then he turned that into, she was my girlfriend. So it could be.
But
I
Amanda
wanna say no.
James, sounds like you're sitting on the fence a little bit.
Well, we all are.
I'm not.
Yeah, obviously, I don't know, but
No, but like, if you was gonna, are you saying no? If you had to make a bet, you'd say no.
I'd say no. Yep.
Right. For what it's worth, I think the same. I think that there's got to have been at least a drunken fumble. There's got to have been. What do you think, Lockhart?
Tiffany.
I think that he is.
Oh,
yes.
You have changed your mind on this specific topic more times than I can recall.
Don't you dare use my words against me.
Well, here's the thing. There are so many variables we're not throwing into this thing. Like I think he's got erectile dysfunction.
Sure, yeah, I can explain. Well, I think it goes along the same lines as what AJ was saying, in that you would have to determine which of his stories is real. And I'm not just talking about the really silly ones that obviously don't make any sense. Like he did not stick his toe
Mikey's
in a
mom.
vagina. Mikey's mom, exactly.
He's got it going on.
There's way too much contradictory information out there to dispute a lot of his stories. So which of his stories would be true in that sense? And I have to say none of them. So that's my final answer.
Well,
no, it isn't. It'll fucking change again next week.
Yeah.
I love it. And I'm the same way too, because I'm thinking there could have been a chance with Paula, and that's what created his obsession, right? I mean, that's what you think about, right?
I don't think it's impossible that he had sex with Paula. I'm not as convinced as other people seem to be. I'll probably get shit for that, but I understand that there are many discrepancies in the story, and I know that's a problem, but it would kind of help explain his obsession with her. Not that he can't be obsessed with a woman without sleeping with her. I mean, we know that he can be, but I don't know.
I would say Paula, I think Paula was the closest that he's ever gotten.
She was what?
I
believe that too.
She's the closest. I think that according to him, I think they did have some type of a friendship. And I think that they did spend time together. And so, of course, because Lorne is going to romanticize all of that, he's going to make that into something much more than what it was. I mean, he even explains that in his own words and saying, we were working toward it. I thought in my mind we were, and all of that. So I think that he did get close. I think they did spend some time alone. Perhaps she did stop over to his place.
I think she might have given him an old fashioned. I think she might have given him an old fashioned.
Like a handy?
Yeah, I think that might have been the case, but that would have been a weird way to stroke curve way over to the. It may have worked, may have not.
Carpal tunnel. She would have.
But as soon as she touched him, he probably came anyway. But I'm just saying, I think that something sexual happened to Paula, but I don't think it was all out intercourse, and it certainly wasn't that fucking stupid story about her boyfriend or fiance dropping him off at Lawrence just to get laid. Again, that's part of Lawrence's fantasy, fucking over the guy.
But I would say that them are the kind of circles that Lorne would have mixed in, where it was all fucked up. But anyway, that we'll probably get onto that in a bit.
Sure.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. People are fucking weird. People are fucked up. They do weird, gross stuff.
Well,
and those are the kind of people Lorne would associate with.
And Paula seems like the kind of person, and again, the way he describes her, we don't know who Paula is, but she seems like the kind of person that would take advantage of situations, maybe get something out of him or something, have him drive her places, all little stupid things,
Yeah, because the thing is, when we're putting people in these places, when we're hearing these stories, what we do by default is we put ordinary people in to fill in the blanks because that's who we think about. But we've always got to remember, they're not going to be normal people hanging around with Lorne. Even friends of Lorne, even back then, he will have been a strange character. He is innately a strange character. He will attract strange people. So these fucked up stories are conceivable. The problem we also have with Lorne being a reporter, which we all know, but it's worth repeating, is that he very easily believes his own bullshit. Very easily. And I found myself doing it occasionally. Like, just quick example, like me and my friends went to the rugby, and one of my mates who I know is a renowned bullshitter. And he told us this ridiculous story. And I added a part onto the story to make it funnier. And when my friend recounted the story to me, he added that bit of bullshit on, and I had to double check myself to go, actually, that part didn't happen. I made it up. But in my head, I thought it was true because I started telling myself this bullshit. So it happens with, I'd like to think, normal people, which you get what I'm saying. And with Lorne, if he's got this, even a hint of this narcissistic personality disorder, of course, he's probably going to convince himself, if he is a virgin, that he isn't. Which I must say is the biggest indicator to me, is that there doesn't seem to be, like, if he's a virgin, why was he so, like, calling Rod a virgin ass bitch and all that? I just think that it'd be a bit of a sore spot for him if he was and he believed it. Do you understand? But that's one of the reasons, not the only one, but it's one of the reasons why I always go to the he isn't a virgin story.
Well, I think that just because he's rude to somebody and calling them names, I mean, there's people who do that all the time. I mean, thinking about, for example, sometimes the people who are most vehemently opposed to homosexuality engage in that behavior. And they can be angry about it, or however they feel.
Boys just said he also called Paul a paedophile, but Lorne doesn't believe he's a paedophile.
It could just be that being a virgin, that he is insulted when people assume that he's a virgin. So that's just an insult. He's very sensitive about that.
Of course. I'm not saying that is categoric proof. I just mean that this is just what I think, this is just my opinion. It's like he'd be more sensitive to it. To, like, when he gets called a virgin, he just laughs it off. I don't detect any hint of, like, embarrassment. He'd be deeply embarrassed and ashamed, I believe. Unless he's convinced himself that he isn't, as I've said, which is a distinct possibility.
Right, I agree with that. I think it is definitely possible that he convinced himself that he's not a virgin. He, had some drunken fumble, something happened, but he's not quite sure what it was. And he's like, well, that's good enough. That's a possibility.
Exactly.
And that would kind of explain the Paula story, because he said she felt like warm, wet air. Like he could not feel, he couldn't feel anything at all. And
the walls of her vagina.
Yeah, that's just impossible. I mean, either how tiny is your dick, or how large is this? What, she must have the world's largest vagina. She's like a medical anomaly, so I think it's possible he's just kind of poking around in the air. He thought he was having sex with Paula. I'm serious. Like,
I agree.
Well,
there's two other variables you got to throw into this thing. Number one, I believe he's got some physical or psychological issue with erectile dysfunction. I believe that. I believe that if he was put in a position to do that, I don't think he could perform. I mean, just
why do you always default to that, dude? You've always been saying that.
Because every fucking picture he showed of Kayla was flaccid. I don't know of anybody who's seen a boner picture of him. Has anybody ever seen a boner picture of him?
Yeah.
You have?
He is very proud when it happens, though. Like
Well, do you remember that phone call where he's saying, honey, I'm going to take a picture.
Yeah.
You want to see it real quick?
Yes,
real quick? While it's lasting right now?
on its own right now. Yes.
It's one thing to get an erection. It's another thing to maintain an erection. Okay.
No, that is true. That is
and
true.
number two, his standards for women he wants to have sex with are way out of his league. Way out of his league. So I don't think he would get turned on by somebody who was any less than that.
Did he ever get turned on by Winnie?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There you go then.
Well, in his own mind, he was conjuring up these things. I mean, if Winnie came and shit in his face, he wouldn't. I don't know. But I think there were a lot more variables here that that we're not really considering here. It's not a question of what was his interaction like with a particular woman or not. It's like, what the fuck was going on in his life? What the fuck is his pathology with all these things that are going on, that's wrong with him. I believe that he's frustrated. I believe that he may have had a chance with Paula, but couldn't perform, and that was it. And the other thing is, we're getting this back and forth about what happened after they allegedly had sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get the thing about, well, I just let her go on and let her boyfriend pick her up. You know, I fucked the guy over. I'm happy. You know, whatever. I'm just adding that. But what's the suicide attempt all about? What the fuck was that all about? He didn't have.
I forgot about that.
According to
That
him, he
is
didn't
very
have brakes.
inconsistent because he told somebody, Jamie or Casey, that after he had sex with Paula, she stayed around and they talked for some length
2 hours
of time.
or
They
something
talked
like that,
for
yeah.
hours. And then in some of the stories, the suicide attempt didn't happen. And then in some of the stories, it did happen. And you've got to wonder, I don't know. I've never
And he didn't
attempted
finish. He didn't finish. That's the other thing. He didn't finish before she got off of him.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, she admitted to
Yeah,
that,
because
which is
she's like,
weird.
I'm done with this. I'm going home. I'm out of here.
I can't get this thing in me. It's like putting
Where are my
stuffing
pants?
oyster through a keyhole.
Yeah, she's like, what are you doing? That is
Exactly.
where
Why
are
are
you
you-
going?
Why are you humping the air, you weirdo?
I think that is really a distinct possibility. And then
Stop
maybe
telling
Lorne
me you
was
love
so
me. Just fuck me.
embarrassed.
Exactly.
He was humiliated.
Stop telling me you love me and crying. Why are you doing that?
Stop crying, please. I can't fuck you
Yes.
if you're crying.
Yeah.
Possible, yeah.
I find it. I haven't found a plausible story of his yet. That's the problem.
So
like
if
I
you
said,
go to the
what would be a
hospital-
plausible story though? In
a
Lorne,
plausible story would be him going to a bar, finding somebody who's really drunk, and say, "Hey, listen, I'll take you home." And whatever. She's not like Angelina Jolie or anything like that. Just somebody, right? And on the way home, we
but
got
he's
something
already
like
said
that,
that, hasn't he, in the past?
Yeah.
That, he's had those. We've had those stories.
One night stands. He doesn't even know what that is.
There's no details though. There's no
Right.
like in his sex offender assignment, his sexual history, he names a lot of girls. Then I met Brittany,
kinds of
age
girls.
22, from Camden, Maine, and we had vaginal intercourse. But he doesn't tell those stories like, oh, I met this girl at the bar. We were both hammered. We went back to my place. We went back to her place. We had sex outside behind a dumpster. Nothing. He doesn't give any
I toe fucked
details.
her.
Right. We don't know anything. They're just a name and an age. Sometimes not even a name, just an age.
Yeah.
I met a girl. She was from.
I know some great looking guys. I mean, some guys who are successful, rich, very good looking. They never have the opportunities this fucker has. Where they're just all over him, like Muggy's
Dude,
mom.
yeah, but your friends are not going to be hanging round in places where basically the women that Lorne had access to are.
True.
I would suggest they're probably a lot easier to.
It sounds so unnatural. It really does. I mean,
I
all of
agree.
his stories involve that.
All of his stories sound bizarre. They always have some kind of strange occurrences. There's some kind of killer robot driving instructor in it or some nonsense. It's fucking bizarre in the extreme. But
he makes it sound like he walks into a bar and all these women's eyes are on him. This little short, fat, bald guy with a baseball cap on. I want him.
That's
what it sounds like.
Lorne was born with
Tony's
that
house,
fucking
yeah.
baseball cap on. I'm convinced.
The Mikey's mom story is always worth talking about because he said at the beginning of the night, he told her nothing was going to happen. Like, listen, lady, I'm not going to have sex with you tonight. So don't even try it. And she disregarded that. And he didn't want to, but he ended up doing it. And
Did you see Mike's name anywhere in the chat log? Did you see Mike's name anywhere mentioned? I remember a couple of guys that he mentioned. I don't remember Mike.
No, because that was
Let's just before we move on in the timeline, it's going to be difficult to sort of. This is probably going to have to run into 2 fucking streams. I was wondering if we could drag it out for one. To be honest, the Denise thing. We need to sort of have a conclusion.
Who's that?
Denise.
Is that the
just
boss's daughter?
The 29-year-old.
Yeah, so we have very limited information. It was when he was 19. He said they had sex multiple times, which doesn't seem it doesn't seem plausible, because the thing is, right, with Lorne, he doesn't seem like the type of guy who'd be able to have a friends with benefits kind of relationship.
Right.
Right.
He's got no benefits to offer them.
Because
right?
No, but what I mean is he wouldn't have been able to. He's not secure enough. If he was having sex with a girl multiple times, he would have been fucking. Unless he wasn't as desperate back then.
Obsessed with them. Obsessed.
Do you know what we were talking about?
I think he's always been obsessed.
No, I agree. I'm just saying we have to consider the possibility that he's got more and more deeply desperate as he's got older, because it's been one catastrophe after another.
Well, he's running out of time, bro.
Yeah, well, there's that as well, because don't forget when Chris interviews him, he says, have you got any kids? No, unfortunately, which is very telling, I think.
I think you're right. I think that's a very important part of the interview.
We've spoke about that before. I just think it's worth considering. I don't believe that if he'd have had, I don't think he would have had sex multiple times with this girl, and he not counted it as a major point in his life. Because he talks about Paula as being the ultimate. Nothing really happened there, did it?
I don't think he can close the deal. That's my problem. My problem is, even if he gets a girl interested, even if he gets him back to his apartment, I don't think he could do it. I really don't. That's my issue.
Even when he was 19?
Yeah. Even worse back then.
Because of his age, you mean? It would have been worse.
And as he gets older, it's even worse and worse. But I'm just saying, he's got major psychological insecurity issues. I think he would have been a perfect candidate for psychological erectile dysfunction. I believe nothing happened. I believe he tried to. By the way, forget about all that. If he had sex with one person, let's take Paula out of the equation for a second. Don't you think we'd be hearing about them all the fucking time? At least several names. Because according to him, he was a male slut. So he, I guess.
Yeah, but according to him, there's loads of women. Why would he,
Because he's obsessed. Once somebody gives him attention.
According to his story, there's loads of women that he's had sex with.
Yeah.
I do think it's weird that he doesn't bring up Denise very often.
Yeah,
if she was his first, and an actual girlfriend who he, spent all this time with, as he claims. That's weird.
I would love if he went detail by detail on how he lost his virginity.
Yeah, he never has details.
Right.
Nothing.
Quick question for y'all. Time traveling token. Would you use it to spy on Lorne's first sexual encounter? Should he have had one?
Oh my god!
Because that'd be fucking tempting.
There'd be nowhere to go. There'd be nowhere to go. So
what do you mean?
That's a waste of a token.
I don't think I want to see it.
What?
I don't want to hear it.
I actually do.
No. It's upsetting to hear, even to hear the phone sex. It's really upsetting. I wouldn't want to see it.
Whoa. Amanda, what about the I don't believe he's ever had sex, but what about using the time token to bring you to the closest time he has had sex? That would be worth looking at.
So with Paula.
If it was incredibly humiliating, like with Paula, and he was humping the air, then I would want to see it. Yeah, I would. I'd see that.
That's exactly what I should have expected that you would have said then.
That's why I set her
then
up,
I'd
man.
buy poor Paula a drink afterwards. I tell her it's going to be okay. You're going through a real bad time in your life. You can block this out and move on. You can be a better person now.
Yeah.
I would also like to see, I'd be more interested in the suicide attempt by Lorne, to be honest with you. I want to know what the fuck he was talking about. Because if you go to the hospital, to the emergency room, and you're like, man, I just ate 15 Tylenol because I'm so sad. I think I'm going to die. Wouldn't they, well, first of all, they'd be like, you're going to be okay. But wouldn't they follow up with some kind of care? Do they just
No, they would pink
discharge
slip
suicidal
them.
people?
They would keep them for 48 hours.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. They would do something. He never mentions anything like that.
Yeah.
He did go to the hospital though, right? Did he call the ambulance?
He said he did.
Yeah.
He never mentioned, I don't think he ever mentioned how he got there, but I believe he said he did go to the hospital. He doesn't say what they did, like
Right.
whether they had to pump his stomach or do anything like that. I'm sure they did not if he did go to the hospital. But I want to know if that's even true.
I don't think they would tell him to sleep it off. I think they would look at his suicidal ideations and realize he needs to be held for 48 hours. That's what I think would happen.
I think they need to, right?
Yeah, they would have to. They would be possibly sued.
Sure. Yeah. If he left and actually followed through after that, then they would have a big problem.
Yeah.
Probably had generic Tylenol.
Probably. Store
What are you trying to say? Like he couldn't even do that, right?
It didn't have the powerful acetaminophen that he was.
Well, he couldn't do that, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Perhaps. I mean, we just have to chalk up everything to.
But it's not about what happened when he went to the hospital. It's about the two different stories he told. One is
true.
Kind of
yes.
One is about a blasé. Okay, she left. That's good. I slapped her on the ass. She left, and her boyfriend picked me up, and I said, "Thanks, dude." You know, that's one story. The other story is when she left, I couldn't take it any longer, so I took a whole bunch of fucking Tylenol. And then what did he do? He was alone, so he would have to take himself to the hospital. He would call Roy.
I think he called the ambulance. I think he called. I mean, if I'm remembering that correctly, I think that's what he did. I don't know though.
Emergency services must hate. First responders must hate those fuckers.
Yeah. So after, in the timeline as we know it, Denise and then Paula, is that right? Just a quick one, do we know where Brandy fitted in this? Because that is a rather amusing tale.
Yeah, I don't think it went Denise then Paula. According to Lorne, there were girls in between.
In Alaska.
Because he went to the Air Force when he was 20? And then he met Paula. He met Paula in Washington State, right? Yeah. So he had a bunch of one-night stands. He had a bunch of girls banging down his door to marry them. And we know one thing about Lorne is that he has commitment issues. He doesn't want to settle down immediately with anyone. He's not asking people to marry him after 6 days. Never.
And don't force him to marry you. Yeah. Don't try to
will
him down.
you marry me or will you be a piece of shit?
Yeah. Do you want to be my wife? Or do you want to be a disgusting piece of shit?
Who did he say that to? Winnie?
I think it was Winnie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He said
that could be the most...
My favorite line, man. My favorite line.
That could be the most anti-romantic proposal of all fucking time, of all in human history. There's not even a close second to that in all the humans that have ever existed in all the various corners of life and all the unique culture. In fact, I'd go a step further and say the fucking universe. Do you want to marry me or do you want to be a disgusting piece of shit? Like,
you get the biggest douche of the universe award. Yes.
So what he's trying to say is, you're a disgusting piece of shit, but if you marry me, maybe you'll not be. Like,
you're correct.
It's just, that is amazing.
It was the angriest proposal I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. He was so drunk and just screaming pissed off.
Oh, there was a whole call full of angry proposals where he was just screaming, "Will you fucking marry me?"
Yes.
Winnie, will you marry me?
Be saying yes soon.
Yeah.
Better be fucking saying yes pretty soon.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I thought that was the most unromantic proposal I'd ever heard. By Lorne's standard, that was almost kind of Shakespearean. Compared to the other one.
87 Problems brought up his best proposal. The paper proposal.
What's
Oh, yeah,
that?
well, certainly
Oh,
that's the best
yes.
one.
With his
Shen,
That was the
penis
best
take it
proposal.
away.
through the paper.
Oh, he stuck his dick through a piece of paper and then wrote, "Will you marry me?" So I guess he's asking. I know. She's asking.
We could do a whole stream.
He's asking
just
her,
on
"Will you
Lorne's
marry my dick?"
proposals.
Not me.
You're right. We fucking could. How remarkable is
We
this?
should, yeah. That'd be
Yeah,
funny.
because there's Ramona when she was at Christmas with her Nana, and he
Mhm.
got
In the
drunk
bathroom.
and yelled at her to get in that fucking bathroom right now. I need to talk to you. This is so important. And then when she finally got away from her family into the bathroom, he asked her to marry him.
And she
that one
decided to
looks
stay in the
mild.
bathroom for 4 more hours. Jesus Christ.
Well, just think, right? If these are all the crazy marriage proposals that have all been over the phone or by bizarre photographs, just think of what's happened if he's proposed to people in real life. There's got to be like pending lawsuits and
happen,
shit
Andrew.
going on.
It doesn't happen.
Well, right. And then also he was told by somebody who had heard it from Paula that he shouldn't propose to her because she would say yes.
I love this. I love this.
That story changes too. One time
Tiffany, you remember when I was going to
Paula
ask you to
said
marry
that
me, and then
directly.
Amanda said, "Don't ask her because she might do it," and I didn't. Remember that?
Right. Exactly. Yes.
I remember.
That's why we don't live happily ever after now. I fucked that
Right.
one up.
Right.
How
Don't do
much
it. She
sense
might
does
say
that
yeah.
make?
None.
None. So how did the
Which is
story
why it's
change?
so funny. Well, I know one time he said the story of who Paula said that to has changed a few
Okay.
times. One of the stories was Paula said that directly to him, like, "Oh, don't ask me that. 'Cause I actually would marry you."
And then another friend told him the other time, right?
And yeah, another time it was like his brother's wife or some other friend. I think it's changed more than twice even.
Gotcha.
As far as who she said that to, and the whole thing is just weird. If somebody said that to you, "Don't ask me to marry you because I actually would marry you," wouldn't your response be, "What? Huh? What do you mean?
Awesome.
So
Let's
do
do
you
it.
want me to or not?" Right? Is that good or bad? What are you saying?
Yeah.
That's one of those things Lorne twisted in his own mind to make it into something better than it was. I would love to know what was actually said, though, like where he got that from. If he just pulled that out of thin air, or if he twisted something around.
A movie. It was a movie.
Maybe.
We got to find the movie.
It doesn't even make sense though.
It doesn't.
No.
Even a writer would say, "I fucked this one up. Let me edit this." You know, he just ran with that. I just don't understand that. I just don't understand it. But to me, it says that he was satisfied with the idea that she wanted to marry him, and that was enough.
Yeah,
You know?
that's better than her not wanting to. Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, think about that mindset for a second. Think about that mindset. You know, I could get it if I wanted, but she says no, so I'm not going to pursue it, but I'm okay with it, and that builds up my ego. I mean, think about that mindset. It's delusional.
He's also said that, like, she said no because she was a wild child and she didn't want to settle down. He could never admit, like, she just didn't want to marry me. She just didn't feel that way about me. Instead, it was she was a wild child. She didn't want to settle down. But in the very next sentence, he says she ended up getting engaged to another guy, but not because she actually wanted him or wanted to, not because she loved him or wanted to marry him. It was just because she needed a place to live. But she could have, if that was all she wanted, she could have used Lorne for a place to live. Why didn't she say yes to him?
Right. Oh, well, think about how he's biding his time, though. What did he say? Like 6 months, he wanted her to get over her ex-fiance or something. Yeah. And then I guess the ex-fiance was still in the picture, I guess. I don't know. But he decided he was going to play it slow, and he was angry and resentful that she decided it's time for her to move on without him. And so he reminds me of these losers that do that get friend zoned, right? And they begin to realize that that's all they're going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was going to tell her when she was ready to move on from her relationship. He said she made moves on him, but he didn't think she was ready. So he kind of rejected her her advances. And
That is so
one of the
unnatural.
catfish. Yeah, I think
Especially for his
I
age.
know. One of the
You know?
catfish, I think it was Casey, asked him, like, well, why were you in a better position to know when she was ready to move on? If she was trying to, initiate sex with you, then that's a pretty good indication that she
Go for
felt
it.
that she was ready to do that. Why did you think you could make that decision? And of course, I'm sure he had no answer. I can't remember exactly what he
Well,
said. but
again,
I'm sure
that's
it was
part of his.
nonsense.
That's part of his backstory about women wanting him more than he wants them. I mean, he's so desirable. He's too good to marry.
He's
It's
too
the
good.
same fucking bullshit.
That's what it all comes down to. Lorne is just too good of a guy. He didn't take his opportunity with Paula because he was trying to be respectful and considerate and thoughtful of her and make sure
Right.
she had enough time to move on
And she
and
was fucking
heal.
some other guy. Yeah. Well,
Seems
James,
like
right?
a great guy,
James
this
was his
Lorne
name,
fella.
right?
Fucking James.
Fucking
Yeah.
James. I gotta say right now, I'm firmly on the side of Virgin right now. Yeah. The more we flesh this out.
It's an intriguing question that will probably still be talked about to the end of time, I would say. So is Paula the next one then? We've got Denise, we've got potentially these people at Alaska where he was at the Air Force, but he was only there a year, wasn't he?
He was there almost 2 years, right?
Right. Oh, I thought it was just a year.
There's no women up there. There's no women up there.
Well, there was Carrie. Remember Carrie?
Yeah, but
Oh, yeah.
she was
Tell
heavy
you what,
set.
he's got more ex-girlfriends than me, this guy. What the fuck?
I know.
Well,
Yeah,
he had
they're
a lot
not.
of one-night stands. Yeah, these are women who he had one-night stands with. They wanted more of him, but he was not willing.
Of course. Well, that's
So
How is
needed
that
to move
not
on.
the biggest bull-faced lie of everything he says?
Of course it is. Of course it is.
But don't let's remember that just because he says like that's his version of that's part of his narrative as to why it ended. It doesn't mean that nothing happened. Of course, he probably stalked them into approaching the authorities, but he's not going to say that, is he?
No.
So it doesn't mean that it didn't. Just because there's gaping holes in these stories and the ending is a conclusion which is just inconceivable, doesn't mean that there's no truth in it.
Oh,
No.
Carrie was in Washington?
Yeah, she was in what? Well,
that would make sense, actually, because
back and forth.
didn't his sister-in-law say that she was walking with a baby in a stroller?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. That was the whole LJ thing.
Yes.
He did talk about other women in Alaska, because I remember he would tell the stories of like he had sex with somebody for 2 hours as punishment because he wasn't, and I don't remember
Throwing her all
his
over the
name.
bed, on the
I
ground.
remember.
But I think he's confusing women with Alaskan Malamutes. To tell you the truth. Anyway.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Yeah, he was. That was the best sex he ever had, he said, and it lasted for 2 hours. And it lasted for 2 hours because he was half turned on and half turned off by her because she was kind of a slut. So,
Yeah.
Guys, what could be more of evidence of his virginity than that story right there?
Well, to add to that, I believe that she was married, and
He's fucked over another guy.
Yeah, exactly.
That must have been one bad husband.
Well, they were at a bar, and she was paying attention to Lorne at first, but then she went
all
off.
people in the bar.
She went off with another. She went off with another guy and ended up having sex with him.
Who's
and then he
fiddling
ran
on the
into
mic?
her again.
Shin, is that you?
it wasn't Shin. Don't blame
What?
Shin.
What? Sorry,
What'd I
Shin.
do?
I do apologize.
Yeah, I'm a little sensitive right now, but okay.
Don't yell at him.
He's sensitive.
So then he ran into her again, maybe the next night or something, and he ended up taking her somewhere and was banging away for 2 hours. Straight sex, not even anything.
What?
They were banging
2 hours?
for 2 hours. Yes.
I don't think I've had 2 hours sex accumulated throughout my fucking life. Never mind in one session.
That shit hurts after a while, man.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun. And
No.
again, that's one of the things that, I mean, even if he's not technically a virgin, I think we can all agree he has very minimal experience. That's why he talks about doing it like a 13-year-old boy, like a little kid. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna bang for 2 hours. Anybody who's
I'm
actually
gonna touch your boobies. It'll
We're
be
going
great.
at it. I threw her off the bed, and we still continued. As she fell off the bed, I couldn't stop.
Yes.
We were animals.
Yes. All these very juvenile
He
stories.
is somebody who steals other people's stories. That's what it is. And even those stories are bullshit.
Oh, he's got some gross ones too. He told a story about how
The toe fucking.
the toe fucking definitely takes the cake, but there's one where he was talking about how he was like giving a woman oral sex, and she ejaculated in his face, and it hit him in the eye or something, or hit him.
Oh yeah.
In the nose.
Was it at the nose or something like that?
Yeah, it went up the nose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because women ejaculate semen like men, and it just it's with a huge amount of force.
They're always lactating too, Romana. Don't forget that.
He's
always lactating.
He's having sex with a different species to me. This guy.
Yeah, maybe that's the explanation.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not a virgin, just not a human.
Those gorillas are desperate.
True.
So can we kind of put together a logical explanation of the Lorne Paula situation? What happened? What really happened?
I
think I can.
Go on.
Okay, I'd like to hear this. I'd love to hear
I do
this.
too.
So, Paula was a bartender at a place that he frequented.
Waitress.
No, she was a bartender, according to the way that I heard it. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to interrupt you because I'm very interested. And I just want to clarify this storyline that you're coming up with here. Is all of the intelligence that we've got all from Lorne's mouth? Is there any secondary evidence whatsoever?
Nothing.
Right,
There's nothing secondary.
Okay.
So,
but it's still good.
It's still good. So she worked at the bar, and he went there because this was also a place where he went karaoke in. And I think it was that Nickleby's place, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, so she was friendly with him.
Hold on a second. What state is this? What state?
Washington.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So she was paying attention to him, as most people would, I suppose, in that type of a job. And so he was paying attention to her, and I believe that they would have, kind of friendly conversations. He would get up and do his karaoke. And then I believe he would wait for her. As a matter of fact, he would be late for work, or he would miss work because he would be waiting for her to be done. So he was staying up way too late. And then after that, after some time, he went over to her apartment. Somehow he got her address. He said that she gave it to him. But I don't know if I believe that either. That would be kind of strange. I don't know why she would give him, but
no way.
He went there because he didn't have her phone number.
Can we go back real quick?
Of course.
Was she nice to him at the bar?
Yes.
And was that something he misinterpreted?
I think so.
Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit? I mean,
I think
what happened at the bar that made him think that she was his girlfriend?
Well, I don't know that he thought she was his girlfriend at that point, but I think that they were getting to know each other, perhaps. I mean, she was being friendly. Who knows how busy this bar was? He was hanging around, I mean, I think anybody who's been a bartender probably has those types of stories.
Did he tip her?
I would imagine that he did.
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably.
I don't think he did.
Probably way too much more than he could afford.
I don't think he did. I don't think he did. I think he thought he had her already, but that's okay. Go ahead.
I can also believe that too. I think that he could have spent way too much money there.
Right.
Because he's not responsible like that either.
So in turn, she would be even more friendly with him because her income relies on tips.
Right.
Definitely. So, and when he went to the apartment, her boyfriend / fiance, whatever he was at the time, opened the door, and he didn't know that this guy existed. But apparently that wasn't a problem.
But there was
Apparently
no close.
they were
How
friendly.
could he not know that? They were so close.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, absolutely. Who knows? But they became friendly, and he said that he brought her around to his brother Paul and his wife, and they became friends and started hanging out with each other, and they spent a lot of time together, according to him. And of course, they had the time while she was working because he would hang out there all the time. And then also with his brother and his wife, he would spend time with them too.
So how did he find her apartment?
I think that he probably followed her.
Yes.
I thought he already got a lift back in the car with them.
Yes, I thought he said he drove her home. Sorry about the noise.
I think once or twice. He didn't say all the time, though.
No, not all the time, but I think Paula knew what she was doing. She's trying to get what she could get. She's going to be friendly with Lorne to get more tips. She saw this guy is interested in me. I'm going to be nice to him. He's going to give me money. He's going to give me rides. And I highly doubt she was just like, oh, hey, I live at 37 Elm Street, apartment 4, just in case you were ever wondering, like, in case you wanted that information. But I'm not surprised that she didn't tell him about her fiance or boyfriend or whatever she had. She, anybody knows, if you don't tell a guy, oh, sorry, I'm taken. By the way, make sure you tip me generously. She's going to leave that part out.
What a fucking goof.
Yeah.
You guys, can you respond to Dubsy's comment? Did he say Paula was jealous of his nieces? What was that all about?
I think that was Paula, right? Yeah. Go ahead, Amanda James.
That was so weird. I think that was 100% projection. I think Lorne tried to make her jealous of his nieces, or he wanted her.
That's a really strange thing to say, that, isn't it? Really fucking disturbing as well. Like, I'd love to get to the bottom of where that came from. It's like, I almost feel like that is Lorne. When you say projection, you're 100% right. It's like he knows about these forbidden feelings or thoughts he's got towards them, so therefore he's projecting Paula into that situation because they're the only people that he could think that she could potentially be jealous of.
And he 100%. Said that she.
But why was it? What about the nephew? Oh, never mind.
Right, exactly. That's what I was about to say. He said that she gave a lot of attention to his nephew, and I think he was incredibly jealous of that. He's obviously not seeing the difference there between Paula giving attention to his nephew, who I'm not sure how old the nephew was at the time. It would still be inappropriate, obviously, if he's young, but that's not her nephew. So, if Paula did give attention to this kid, it's probably because Lorne was spoiling his nieces and not paying attention to the boy. So maybe Paula felt bad for him. Who knows? But I think it was projection. He was jealous of the attention that she gave his nephew. So he wanted her to be jealous of his nieces, which is really disturbing because it shows that he viewed them as like some sort of competition for this woman that he was trying to date.
Don't worry, baby. I'll show you my dick as much as I show my nieces. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he viewed them as females.
It's not good. The thing is, as well, I don't like talking about the niece thing because we don't have any proof. But there's I think the best way I could put it, or the most accurate, is there are lots of fucking huge red flags where the niece situation was concerned. It's like, oh my god, he mentions it in the chat log so many times, and he's mentioned it. It's all over the place, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah.
Can we go to
Yeah,
Golden Ryan's
especially.
comment? Sorry.
Hold on,
No, no.
I just wanted to say real quick, it's especially the comment about the shorts, because he brought the shorts up in the context of he was telling Kayla to ask her father to buy her a thong.
Oh,
And she said, really, I don't know. I don't know if my dad would want to do that.
Lavelle
And he said,
got it
no,
right,
no,
though.
trust me. It made me feel good when my nieces asked my permission to buy a tight
Right.
pair of shorts. I don't
I
even know
believe
how else that could be interpreted.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
believe Lavelle's correct, too, to add on to that. He might have been said hey to his nephew, and Lorne got jealous with her affection toward his nephew. I think that might have happened, too. But Golden Ryan asked a question. The timeline of the nieces doesn't match up. Lorne was 24 when he knew Paula. Is that accurate?
I think. Well, it's definitely.
Well,
I thought 26.
I thought he was a little older, too. Yeah.
26 is popping into my mind for some reason, but I'm not sure.
No, but still, it
We
still
gotta get
doesn't make
folks
sense
so
because they would have
forensically
been.
involved with this
They'd
fuck.
have been like 3 or 4, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been too young, I think. So, but he definitely uses nieces as, you're right, Sir Bitchalot. I think he uses nieces as a method to get his paramour to be jealous. I think that might have happened.
It's because it's all he's
But,
got.
or in his own mind. They weren't jealous,
Sure.
obviously.
right.
Yeah.
In his mind, that's the way he sees it because he sees his nieces as females
Right.
and he sees the nephew as a male. So, regardless of them being family or young, he still sees them that way. So the interaction or the competition that somebody would have with another, person for whatever sex they're interested in, they're gonna be feeling that as well because that's the way that Lorne sees
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
So the Paula thing, you see, the thing is, even if you look at it in its most basic, you look at it as its most basic aspect, alcoholic loser and bartender. Hang on a minute. It's like, well, right, it just so happens that he got it on with this bartender. It's like sometimes bartenders do get it on with the customers. I've had a couple of flings with bartenders when I used to in my drinking days, but this is Lorne Armstrong we're talking about. So straight away you're like, hang on a minute, this is a bit strange. But the way he talks about it, something happened. We can all agree with that. It's not just something that... I've heard this story said a few times, and I think there is some truth in it. But yeah, he said he had sex with her, and then the boyfriend or husband was going to go and pick her up from Lorne's or something. Have I got that right?
Yes.
What's wrong with that, Andrew? What's wrong with that?
Where do you want me to start?
He dropped her off, left her there for a little while, and came back.
They had a fight,
Correct.
though. Right?
They did have a fight, yes.
Okay.
But I will say, and we pointed to it earlier, the circles that Lorne was mixing in, things like this happen. From our perspective, where we're talking now, it's like, what the fuck? It seems ridiculous, but shit like this happens.
Yep.
And the boyfriend could have been like, yeah, I'll drop you off at Lawrence. That guy's no fucking threat to me. That guy's a loser.
Yeah,
You're gonna fuck
exactly.
that
He's a
guy? Go
scrawny
ahead. I'll make fun
Exactly.
of you for
Yeah,
it.
he can't even get a boner, that guy.
I'm 200 pounds, motherfucker. Sorry.
Maybe he heard him at
I
the
weigh
karaoke.
200
200 pounds and 5'5". That's not a good thing, bro. That's not a good thing.
But didn't Lorne say that Paula broke his heart?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But she
She's
was
the
all
reason
air.
he
Why would you
can't
wanna
have
keep
a
having
real
sex with somebody like
relationship.
that? But here's the thing, though. Why would he want to have sex with her if it wasn't good? If she was so wide or however he described it, why is he still pining after her? I mean, I would think, okay, yeah, that didn't work. I'll get that out of my memory bank. Why would he do that? Why would he think, oh, she wanted me even more? Is it the relationship aspect that he liked the most? Is that what it was? Because it doesn't sound like she was the best person to have a relationship with either.
True.
I think
You know,
he just
what the fuck?
becomes obsessed with anyone. It doesn't matter. Look at Winnie. Winnie was
I
a
know.
horrible
Okay, never
human
mind.
being in
You're right.
every way. Winnie
You
was
got me. You got me.
absolutely disgusting. It doesn't matter at all. He got
Someone
jealous.
said earlier, though, Amanda James, about Winnie, someone in the chat, it might have been Dan Jones, said that Winnie was thin and young. Now, I immediately came back with, well, yes, but she was vile anyway. But
Vile.
Big breasts too.
Winnie was like in her early 30s and a drug
oh,
addict.
was she?
So
Oh, right,
even
okay.
if she was, even if she was, pretty young and thin, she was strung out. She was cracked
Yeah,
out.
I love her
Like,
even though she has an incontinence issue. Yeah, I love her.
yeah, that doesn't equal attractive necessarily. Being young
No.
and thin doesn't necessarily equal beautiful. And Winnie was intentionally disgusting. I mean, Lorne got incredibly jealous, but she farted in a man's face, and Lorne screamed and
On her
raged
shoulder. On her
out of
shoulder.
jealousy. So your ass was right by his face. You let them clean your asshole. This is a disgusting woman. I can't. And I'm, by design, she was as disgusting as possible to see when Lorne would finally say, no, I'm not attracted to that. I'm not attracted to you anymore.
Yeah, but
that's
Dan
gross.
Jones said it perfectly. She was young. That's all he needed.
But Luke, what he's also said, and I've not seen these, so you guys are going to have to help me out. The photos they used of Winnie don't look bad at all.
No. I mean,
no,
they're not hideous.
No, they look like a woman in her early 30s who's on drugs, because that's what the woman was that they used the
Wait a
pictures
minute. There were
of.
two pictures though. There were two. One was the Pepsi girl, right?
There were many pictures, yeah.
And the second was video of that. Like, I don't want to, again, defame somebody, but that crackhead girl who was going through thrift shops and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was the other one, right?
Yes. So there was Pepsi Girl, and then he found out that she was not Pepsi Girl, and he was under the he thought that the second girl, the drugged out girl, was actually Winnie. And no, she wasn't hideous. She was not ugly, but
she wasn't like super attractive either. So.
She was no robot Jamie. Absolutely not. No. Or like
I have
the Debbie character was really, was like they used a picture of a model,
right.
from some ad or something. She was
Debbie's hot. So what happened? So when he started to realize who Winnie was, he started being more attractive to the more attractive sister. Is that what happened?
No. When Debbie started giving him attention, or when he caught the idea that Debbie might be interested in him, that's when he moved away from Winnie. If Debbie had never been introduced, or if Debbie, whoever gave him the impression that Debbie was interested in him, if he never got that idea, then he never would have lost interest in Winnie.
That's a great question.
Except for Rhoda. Rhoda started showing interest in him too.
She died.
She did. She died. But before she died, she started showing interest in him. So he saw her as a viable option for someone to date, because she was supposed to be very attractive. Even though the picture they used of Rhoda was like some cross-eyed girl with white lipstick and giant fake boobs.
Actually, I thought she was attractive. I mean, I don't know. I mean, she looks attractive to me. I mean, just fix your eyes a little bit. You'll be fine.
Just squint a lot, yeah. I'm sure she could be attractive, but
sorry, Tiffany.
They chose a great picture.
We're going to have to wrap it up. Now, unfortunately, this has gone... We've not even got onto the real Amanda James yet, or the Mikey's mum story or any of that. So we're going to have to... This is going to have to spill into a further episode, which is pretty cool, because I think it's been good fun, actually. It's kind of... I think it's really good fun to talk about this, because there's so much ridiculousness that's kind of webbed into it because it's come from his brain. So of course it naturally invokes just the ridiculous humor, like it's just so funny, the ludicrousness of it all. So it's real good fun, I think. So we'll talk about, and what I'll do is maybe we can get a picture of Shin's notebook because I'm sure there's loads of notes on this. But
Oh yeah.
There's going to be. We've not even gotten to Amanda James, and we've not talked about Brandy, which is, if anybody wants to know about Brandy, listen to the My Valentine robot call on Heelbone's channel. It's really funny. So the robot goes, "So you had sex?" Yep. It just sounds like a total lie. It's so funny.
We might have to listen
It
to
is,
clips,
yeah.
Andrew, we might have to listen to some clips.
Well,
just
maybe.
clip.
Yeah, that
We
might...
never do that, I know, but
yeah, maybe. We'll have a chat about that. But yeah, so we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to run this into a second part, and then after that, it'll be like Kayla. But we've not even talked about Molly yet either.
You're gonna have to create some kind of like outline for us to follow.
Yeah,
we will veer off course. Without
yeah,
some kind of
sometimes
structure.
it's fun to do that though, because it brings up like other things that we don't consider. It's kind of unavoidable sometimes, but I get what you're saying, because we don't stick to the script, do we? Really?
we never do.
Never.
No, we'll have to.
You throw out a rudimentary outline, and then we deviate from that. Always.
Yeah.
You try, Andrew. You try to get us.
I try to steer us.
We try to deviate from it.
Yeah, I try to steer us in the direction, but it's not always possible. But I think it's, at the end of the day, it's a bit of fun. I think people have enjoyed it, so we'll get onto part 2 next time we're all available. So thank you very much to Amanda James, Tiffany Lockhart, and Shins Koala. Have you two got another video coming soon?
We do. We're going to be recording one later.
So
cool.
Later today. So
I'll be there.
If any of you guys
in
think
the front row.
the description has already been in the chat, so you can check the link to the channel, so you can check that out. I don't know when we're going to be back next, guys, because it's just we've just got to catch us all, free at the same time, and we've all got shit going on just like everybody. So yes, we'll be back in some variety. Me and Adam will probably be doing a stream in the week soon, so that'll be pretty cool. So yeah, thanks everybody in the chat. It's really appreciated.
I don't like him.
Yeah. Well, who does?
Sorry.
It's great. Listen, Lorne's little phrases never get old or boring or unfunny. They just don't. It's like, ironically, one of Lorne's favourite movies, Dumb and Dumber, although it kind of isn't. It got explained to him. No matter how many times you watch that movie, it never gets unfunny, does it?
I would love to write a script where Lorne was the co-writer. I would love that. It would be awesome. I'd keep his shit in, too.
Oh, yeah. Lorne did write a script, or he began writing a script for Casey. I think Casey said that. And he only wrote 2 pages because, surprise, surprise, Lorne doesn't finish whatever project he begins. But he wrote it like in the format of a book.
Oh,
wow. Do we have access to this?
We'd love that.
I don't know. Ask
Speaking of which, can we finish this creature at some point?
Oh yeah.
I forgot about the creature. I've got to look for it.
Yeah, we've got to finish the creature, because that.
I don't know what happened to those guys
dreadful.
at the foot of the mountain. They couldn't get down from.
Oh, do you know what else we've got as well as children's books? Yes, you heard it right, guys. Lorne Armstrong wrote a children's book.
And it was illustrated by a white supremacist in prison.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
That's the kind of book I want to buy.
Right, let's just summarize this. A paedophile wrote a children's book that was illustrated by a white supremacist.
A Nazi.
Yes, in prison.
In prison.
Yeah.
And they were going to touch the hearts of every little children in the country.
This is just what the next generation needs, doesn't it? As if this fucking planet isn't in enough
oh my God, we're going backwards. Okay.
We're de-evolving. We really are.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. Mr. Penis went to a rally where people were dressed in... What the fuck? I don't know.
But make sure that he opened the tent flap for his girlfriend before the creature came chasing after her. And he says,
Oh my God,
And
the
kiss her on
twisted
the
imaginary world of
Kiss
Lorne
her
is
on the
Kiss her on the
fucking
lips.
great.
and say, honey, I'll be right back, but I'm not going to tell you what's going on because you're about to die. So I'm sorry.
And caress her pregnant belly, her newly pregnant teenage
I think
belly.
because we have Tiffany now, we should start from the beginning. She was never-
I think
I'm not
Tiffany's
going-
gonna
I'm
be
not going through
busy
that
for the
again.
next foreseeable future.
Right. Anyway, I will have to sign off. Thank you, everybody, yet again. Yeah, like I